Hello everyone, welcome back. I am Fer, and recently Disney released the trailer for their new upcoming movie Encanto. And after watching it, I have to say that I am very disappointed. The movie is set in Colombia, and it tells the story of Mirabel, the only member of her family without any magic powers. Don't get me wrong, this movie will probably be very good. Everything looks and sounds amazing. After all, they hired Lin-Manuel Miranda, one of the best composers alive right now, to write the music for this film. And that's the thing. Disney executives wanted to make a movie set in Latin America, so they hired Charis Castro, a Cuban writer, to co-write the script, and they hired Lin-Manuel Miranda, a Puerto Rican composer, to write the music. And Lin-Manuel has been very vocal many times about how much he loves his country and his culture. So maybe the movie could be about Puerto Rico. But then they also hired a Cuban writer. Okay, so maybe the movie could be about all the Caribbean cultures. You could have a character from Puerto Rico, another from Cuba, another from Haiti, from Barbados, and the Puerto Rican character could even be based and voiced by Lin-Manuel Miranda himself. Come on, this movie writes itself. But instead of letting these talented people tell a story about the countries and the cultures which they love, they had them work on a movie about a completely different country and culture. I would love to hear the songs that Lin-Manuel would write about his own country for a Disney movie. But now, none of us will ever hear those songs because that's not the movie they are making. Okay, let's back up a bit. Disney has a long history of taking inspiration for certain cultures to make their movies. To name just a few, there is Mulan, Pocahontas, Hercules, Frozen, Moana. You might like some of these movies better than others, but all of them have merit in one aspect. When you decide to use a culture as inspiration, you have to use that culture to its full potential. You have to tell a story you could not tell any other way. The story of Mulan cannot exist outside of China. It is a centuries-old legend that needs the context of a culture of honor, duty, filial piety, sexism, and nomadic invasions. The story of Moana doesn't make sense without the Polynesian culture, not just because Maui is part of their mythology, but because in real life, Polynesian people did stop exploring the Pacific for nearly 1,000 years in what is known as the Great Pause, only to resume exploring as suddenly as they had stopped, and no one is sure why it happened. The story of Moana serves as a mythological explanation for this real-life event. And now, for a Pixar example, my favorite, Coco, doesn't make sense outside of the Mexican culture. You need the cultural context that leads people to celebrate the memory of their deceased loved ones. The idea that those loved ones can come to visit us, and the attitude that this is not something scary, but something to be celebrated. Now, let's take all of that and compare it to what we know about Encanto. Is it inspired by real-life myths or legends from Colombia? It isn't. Is it inspired on some historical event? It is not. Does it use Colombian culture to tell a story it could not tell in any other way? It doesn't. To be fair, we have only seen the trailer. And maybe I am wrong, and maybe the movie does all of these things and more. But I fear that I'm probably correct, and here is why. This movie wasn't always about Colombian culture. At some point in development, apparently it was about Brazilian culture. And even before that, it was just about Latin American culture in general. And, well, if you can just change the setting of the story that easily, that has to mean that the setting of the story is not that important to begin with. So why choose Colombia then? Well, let's go back to Lin-Manuel and Charisse. Why not choose the Caribbean culture in the first place? And the answer is because it would be a very risky movement in terms of business. You see, when you make a movie like this, it has to be a success in the country you are using as inspiration. Because if it's not, if they don't like it, it's gonna be terrible publicity. It doesn't matter if the rest of the world likes it, if the people you are representing do not like it. Take for example Coco. If we Mexicans hadn't loved Coco, it would have given this movie terrible publicity. It doesn't matter if the rest of the world had liked this movie if Mexicans hadn't. If Disney had decided to make a movie about Caribbean culture, then there would have been some very big obstacles in the way. For one, Cuba and the United States have a very complicated relationship, and so does Puerto Rico with the rest of the United States. And then there's the fact that Caribbean people might have similar cultures in some ways, but they are also incredibly diverse, and you can see that in the languages they speak. They speak Spanish, French, Dutch, even Creole, which is a language that is only spoken in Haiti. Marketing that movie to such a diverse group of people in so many different languages would have been an extremely difficult challenge. And again, if you fail at this, then the movie will probably fail internationally as well. And yet, despite all of that, it could have worked. Because after all, Moana got made, and it was a success. And Polynesian people are also extremely diverse, and they are spread over many different countries. But now we come at the worst part of all of this situation. And is that this movie wasn't just written by Charisse and her co-writer Jared. This movie was also written by focus groups. Disney made some market research and they probably concluded that audiences weren't interested on a movie about Caribbean culture, which meant that it wasn't worth the effort to appeal to those people. Then they probably focused on the largest Latin American countries by population, which are Colombia, Brazil, and Argentina. And for some reason, at first they had concluded that Brazil was the best option, so at first they went with that. But then, I don't know, something happened on their market research that made them change their mind and go with Colombia in the end. There's nothing immoral or unethical in using market research to make the most marketable movie that you can, but I just wish that they would have chosen Colombian culture because they fell in love with it and they wanted to tell a story about this culture and not because it was a good business choice. But if you are Colombian and you're excited to watch this movie, yeah, you should be. It will almost definitely be an excellent movie. There's too many talented people working on it to be anything but. I just keep thinking that Lin-Manuel and Charisse would have loved to work on a Disney movie about their countries and cultures. But now they won't. Thanks a lot for watching and thanks a lot to my Patreons, which make these videos possible. Anyway, if you want to watch more of my videos, please subscribe and give me a like, and I tell you what, I make videos about a ton of different stuff, so go to the playlist, check them out, maybe there's something there you like.